Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from anthonymorganti.com, and this is episode 25 of Photo Critiques. And in Photo Critiques, people send me in some of their best images, and I critique each shot with suggestions on how they can improve it. And today, I'm really happy to critique the work of Auke Hamers. Now, Auke sent me in a pronunciation key for his name, and I'm probably still screwing it up, but hopefully I came close. Anyways, Auke, he's a Dutch filmmaker, and he's just found kind of the joy of photography, and you'll see when we go through his images, he definitely has a photographic eye, and he definitely kind of has his own style too, which is very interesting, and hopefully I could offer some tips on how he could, just improve that much more. In this first shot, Auke did a great job here with receding lines. You could see the sides of the road, the center lines in the center of the road recede off into the distance, and they help lead your eye through the photograph. Usually though, you'd kind of like the eye to resolve on something. He does have this bridge and opening here where it kind of resolves, but it would have been kind of cool if there was a person in the street, or a motorcycle, or maybe a dog crossing the street. Kind of the more unusual the better, if there was something there to help resolve our eye as we look through the shot. One thing I do got to say though is that when you're doing street photography, believe it or not, if you want to sell it, graffiti sells. And these walls are tagged real heavy. I'm not really sure what it says. It could be profane for all I know, but usually colorful graffiti sells. In the black and white, I can't tell if this is colorful. It just looks like white, gray, and black. Maybe it wasn't, but a colorful, arty looking graffiti is a very interesting subject to photograph. So in this scene, this is a great shot with the receding lines, but I suggest work this scene and see if you could get this graffiti showcased somehow, and it would be an interesting shot. Let me go on to the next shot. Excuse me one second. There we go. One thing I noticed about Auke's style, he likes to isolate things. And for instance, these bales of hay, he likes to isolate it. Another good thing he does, notice it's not bullseyed, it's not right in the middle, it's off to the side, and it's a little bit lower in the shot. One thing I want to point out, it's not very well in focused, so it's kind of blending in to the rest of the background a little bit. So you really got to tighten up the focus if you're going to do this style on this subject so it stands out from the rest of it. The other thing I noticed is it's a weird combination here. You got an ISO of 640, a wide open aperture of 2.8. I assume that's wide open on this 24-70 lens, but it's 1/1600th of a second. Very, very fast shutter speed. I would say bring your ISO down to 150 if your camera does it, but as low as it could go. Dial in, shoot an aperture priority, and if you want to isolate this, then that's fine. Do 2.8, but your depth of field is very limited, so you have to make sure your focus is tight, like tight right on it. And if you have to use a tripod, use a tripod. You might not get a fast enough shutter speed, but I would imagine at 1/16th of a second, just doing the math in my head, which is probably going to be way off, I'd say he's probably going to be around 1/30th of a second if he was at f of 2.8, an ISO of 100, and he brought the maybe 1/60th of a second. So he should be able to handhold it. It's going to be close. Use a tripod though, just to get the extra crisp picture. Again, ISO 640, f of 2.8. Usually on landscapes, you want to use an aperture around f.8, f of 8, f11, somewhere in there. Even f of 16. You don't want to stop your lens all the way down because you start getting some distortion caused by diffraction, they call it. So usually the sweet spot of a lens is about 2 to 4 stops up from wide open. So it'd be 2.8, 5.6, 8 in there, 8, 11, around there would be the point of where the lens is at its crispest, I guess, for lack of a better word. So shoot at ISO 100. In this scene, I would definitely suggest f11, and If you have to use a tripod, use a tripod. The shot itself, the composition is great. I love this. These bales of hay off to the side. The sky is magnificent. The trees in the back are a little dark. In Lightroom, you might want to brighten those up just a little bit, just to bring them up a little bit. Add some interest to this foreground with, I mentioned in my Learn Lightroom 5 videos of how you could use a brush and do some selective dodging and burning to add some interest to the foreground, or this, vast expanse of grass. And but the composition is excellent. This is a style, again, I mentioned, likes to isolate something. The focus is much better on this than it was on the bales of hay. But again, with the ISO 640, it's grainy. I don't know if you could see it in the video, but there is some grain, so that cuts down on how sharp the actual image will be. So, get that ISO lower. The other thing, he's at 11 millimeters. When you're using a wide angle lens, being a filmmaker, I'm sure Auke knows this. This is for everybody else. A wide angle lens will give you more depth of field than even a mid-level lens, or something in the 70 millimeter range. So to better even isolate this shot is if he used a 50 millimeter lens or a 70 millimeter lens and stepped back and focused on this at f/2.8, the back would have been even more blurry. Now, I'm not sure in this case he wanted that, but that's just something to keep in mind. And part of what you could do when you're working the scene: shoot one at 11 millimeters, shoot one at 16 millimeters, pull this lens off, put on a 70 to whatever you have, 70 to 200, and try it at 70, try it at 100, try it at 200. Just try different focal lengths. Don't settle on 2.8 all the time too. Try it at f11, try it at f16, try it all different places. Relax, work the scene. This shot, this another spectacular sky. He did a real nice job of processing it and capturing it where really nothing is blown out, maybe just a tiny bit right there, which is no big deal. We have this bright patch, brighter patch of the grass, which is nice. It's not all uniform. Again, though, that ISO 640 and f/2.8 bother me. I would have rather he shot f11 and ISO 100. This is, of all the isolation shots he did, this is my favorite, probably because it's the most in focus. This is really nice focus. It's focused right on that drop, which I like. That's where the light's hitting it. This is another one at 11 millimeters. I bet if he used a 50 millimeter, step back a little bit, f/2.8, it would have blurred the background out a little more, and these would have stood out a little more. Very limited depth of field at f/2.8 though, so you guys, whenever you do stuff like this, you got to make sure your focus is bang on, because you're not going to have, it's very unforgiving. You're not going to have enough depth of field to cover up any mistakes. This is kind of a good study in it's kind of negative space, even though this is not really a strict to the term a negative space photo. But again, usually too on the landscapes, not only do you want to shoot at ISO 100 and an aperture of more like f11, he kind of likes a subject in the shot. And if the sky is pretty cool in this shot, but if you have a really super spectacular sky with a sunset, that's okay. But there's no real foreground element here to grab our interest. There's nothing in the midground to grab our interest. So you'd really like to have something to help our eye resolve on the shot. This shot is excellent. He did a great job of getting this entire tree in the shot. This cow looking at these two cows actually looking at the camera, I just love that. I think that's awesome. This post is bothering me. He shot at 24 to 70 at 27 millimeters with a 24 to 70 lens. This is one shot where I would have liked to seen him use that 11 to 16. Got on the other side of this fence. He would have got the same exact composition. This post wouldn't have been in the shot. Again, though, ISO 100. I hate to keep drumming on that and talking about that, but shoot ISO 100 and f11 when you're doing it in landscapes. At least f11. f8 is okay, But f11 is usually what I found. All but one of my lenses sweet spot is at f11. I have one lens that's f of 0.8, f of 8. So do experiments with your lens and see where they seem to be at their crispest. This is kind of a canopy shot. Usually when you shoot canopies of trees, you like the scene backlit. And this is almost backlit. It makes the leaves sparkle and become some are brighter and darker than others. So that's interesting. The tree is cut off, which normally I discourage. But in this case, the tree is so kind of craggly and old and weathered, it's interesting. So our attention is drawn to this craggly weathered tree, not necessarily are we dwelling on the fact that we're not getting the whole tree in the shot. So it's okay. And this too, you know, a close-up we could see the moss growing on the tree. This is kind of a detail shot though, and really on the detail shot it did come out nice as it was. Obviously Auke's using a really good camera with a real good sensor, because at ISO 640 on my camera, one of my cameras at least, it would have been more grain prevalent in the shot. So I would have liked to seen him shoot this scene with ISO 100 again and a smaller f-stop. I think because the depth of field is very limited. It's a cute shot. This backlit, you have these the rays of the light coming through. It kind of nice adds a little highlight around the deer. It's a nice shot. He did a great job of getting the entire animal in the frame. Whenever you're shooting any animals, even insects, you don't want to cut anything off. So if they have an antenna going up into the upper part of the picture, be careful you don't cut off the antenna. Get the entire shot, the entire animal in the shot. This shot here, it's interesting. It's more like a shot you're on vacation somewhere and you're taking a shot. It's, you know, the tree's cut off up in here, but I'm not sure if he moved back, if he would have, you know, introduced other bad elements like stuff in the foreground. So it's hard to critique this shot. It's just, you know, like a vacation image. And no, we got more. Why aren't we moving? Okay, this shot too, there's not a definitive subject. We have some interesting tree trunks over here. It's kind of framed. This is kind of a natural frame, but there's nothing in here that's really framing. The sky is pretty much blown out. It's kind of hazy out here in the background. It would have been interesting if we had you know, a person standing here looking over the the edge, or sitting on the edge, something so our eyes could settle on, and then we could investigate the rest of the picture after we settle on it, because we got kind of a leading line coming through here. These parts of these rocks seem a little brighter. It would have been nice if something was right there. This shot is another, again, with receding lines. I like this shot a lot. We have this geometric patterns. Geometric patterns are always, or if you could find them in nature or in structures and human-made things, are kind of nice studies. Again, you want your eye to find something. We're leading our way through the picture and we don't really see nothing. I'd like to see something here. A person walking this way. Something, the more unusual the better. I said maybe a huge man with a tiny dog or something like that, or a tiny woman with a huge dog. You know, something, you know, that the more unusual the better. And I think in that case it would have been a better picture, but as it is, it's a great shot. The exposure is excellent. Again, I hate harping on it, but bring that ISO down. This shot here is one where I say, wow, this could have been so cool. This cross is interesting, but right here, it's got like a skull on the cross. That's like so unusual, and it's so minimized in the shot as it is now. The shot is exposed great. Auke did a great job with the exposure, the framing. This is off to the side. But I would work this scene. I'd like to see what this skull is all about here. See if there's some other better picture lurking in this scene, in something with this skull. Remember I talked to in the past about you like contrasting elements in a shot. It adds tension. And you could do it with color. You take the colors at the opposite ends of a standard color wheel. So, you know, like purple is opposite yellow, and blue is opposite orange, and red is opposite green, and you like to incorporate those into a shot. You like opposing textures, hard and soft. In this case, we just have something that's a little more ambiguous, but still it's opposing. We have a skull on a cross, and I think it's interesting, and something that if you could get back here, Auke, work this scene and see if you could do something to better exploit that skull. It's a cool shot. I think it's a cave. I'm not really sure. I love the color, and it's just a really cool shot. Part of the reason why I think it's a cave just by looking at it, but the ISO 1250 f at 2.8, 1/30th of a second, it was dark. Wherever this was, it was dark, and to get this shot was difficult. So that's a really nice exposure and a really nice job. This shot here I like, and this might be my favorite. The bicycle, this barnacle encrusted bicycle, obviously was in the water. At one time somebody fished it out, propped it up here. He used ISO 100, which I love. The f at 2.8 did a real nice job of focusing on this bicycle at 24 millimeters and just making the background soft enough where our eyes are resolving on this bicycle. It's the most in focus thing. It's the most interesting thing in the shot. It's got this shot has a definitive subject, something we could really identify, look at, and I just like the shot. I love the way he composed it. This is off to the side. He got low, shooting almost up at it, so it makes an upward diagonal as you look at it, and it helps lead your eye through the shot. We have these lines helping bring our eye through the shot also. It's just an excellent composition. I think that's the last one. Let's see. Yes, it is. So as you guys could see, Auke has an excellent eye for photography. He has he's developing a style already. All I would say is on landscapes specifically, bring down your aperture to a smaller aperture, which means a larger f-stop number. That would be usually around at least a f11. If you have to go to f16, f8, that's fine. Just 2.8 usually on a landscape, you're cheating yourself a little bit. So f11, ISO 100 on the landscapes. I love your composition. The other thing is work the scene, especially if you see walls that are tagged. There's graffiti. Get a lot of different angles and shots of those. A lot of people find those interesting, and they tend to sell when you have them on these sites like, you know, pixels.com and stuff like that. And the other thing is when you're using or exploiting receding lines, leading lines, hopefully you could get something in that shot to help our eyes resolve on that spot, make it interesting. So again, I'd like to thank Auke for sending me in his work. I really enjoyed it, and I'd like to thank everyone who have watched my videos and commented on my videos, shared my videos, and have subscribed to my YouTube channel. I really do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you guys soon.